Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry that if anything, I'm even less prepared than normal. Sorry to say. My excuse is that, well, long story, but basically we sold our house to a developer, and suddenly in the middle of January we were told, right, you've got to be out in 3 months. And we've not been able to, been madly searching to find somewhere to buy. We couldn't, so we had to madly search somewhere to live, and then we've found somewhere possibly to buy, and it needs a lot of work, so we're having to talk to lots of people about that. And because they're knocking the house down, we got them to agree to the fact that we could take the oak front door, take this, take that, the parquet flooring, and I suddenly found out on Thursday that I should have removed all of it by Wednesday, and I thought I had another month to do that, but they'd an email appeared to come in blank, and I read the attachments and managed to miss that somewhere in them there was a message saying, right, your notice to remove the stuff starts now. So I have been somewhat busy. But also, yes, we have been pretty busy with RISC-OS-related things. We've still got various projects on the go, some of which I can't yet say anything about, but will be, I think, quite beneficial. Something, I don't know how many people managed to make Richard's talk first thing. How many people didn't manage to be Richard's talk about the new project? Oh, right, okay. Well, very briefly, he can't say an awful lot. And if you really want to know more, go and see Richard on the Orpheus stand. But it's a project that has raised a significant sum of money to do a RISC-OS project. And it sounds very interesting, very exciting, because I have signed the relevant NDA about it. So I can't say really much more, but, it's... I'm not worried about it or anything. It sounds really quite good, and I think should be good for, well, everyone RISC-OS related. Let's put it that way. But that's all. I can't.
Turn the ads off,
yeah, of course. Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I haven't got a presentation. One of the things is because, well, the thing is, what we do is quite varied. What we offer is everything from sort of, replacement mice. We've actually got some new mice that actually can be used on the RISC PC, RISC PC basically, because they're serial mice, but they're serial mice that are compatible with the RISC PC. Not all my serial mice are, and it's a proper 3-button mouse. And because, as you may know, Acorn-type mice haven't been available for ages, and the PS2 Mouse Mini from Stuart Tyrrell, well, I think these are maybe possibly the last 2 in existence, new and unsold in the world. So we managed to source these, and there is a driver that is available for pre-RISC-OS machines, and I thought it was a little bit sluggish compared with what mouse connected directly, but at least one user has said, oh no, I've actually moved over now to using one of these as my main mouse. So it's certainly usable for normal type use, because as you may know, even second-hand mice are selling on eBay without a warranty for 50 quid. That's what we're doing. Really old, well, people that need them. That's who are buying them. If you've got a RISC-OS machine without a working mouse, then you haven't really got a RISC-OS machine. Ah, well, yes, that's if you're foresight to keep they keep finding us. Oh, true. That is probably. Certainly, if it was although back at in Brighton Road, 78 Brighton Road, the shop. Yes, no. I have actually thrown out stuff that I now found that I could have sold, or if I had kept them. I know, because that's one of the other things that's actually keeping us managed to pay the rent. Not managed to pay me really, but pay the rent at least. Is selling off some of the old stuff, the retro stuff, because people do either sometimes some companies have stuff that running on ancient stuff and they just can't. They haven't got. It would cost a fortune to replace, or things like that. So the sales of retro bits and pieces is something that helps significantly keep us going in the risk-cost market. I'll come to the newer things at the end of the talk. Talking about the old stuff, a cassette recorder, well, in actual fact, it's a cassette player. You might think, why on earth would anyone want that? But don't people actually want to buy cassette players for their BBC and B and Master? And they're being especially mechanical device, their old one may have stopped working. Or if they left it, of course, with play held down, the pinch wheel will be as... Yes, weird shape. I don't know what the word's called, but it's a circle with a dent on one side, it would be, basically. So we managed to eventually find that there are some devices out there are just players, they're not recorders, and they don't have motor control, and quite a few of them, we bought a selection of them, and quite a few of them don't work at all, don't even, you can hear, yes, but plug them into the computer and it sort of merrily doesn't even say, block, whatever, question mark, it doesn't see it at all. But these ones, well, the ones that we're using work, so we've now got a source of those. Going back, we've got some cheap speakers that a local company had, I don't know, 480 of them they wanted to get rid of. It was collect only on eBay, so I got them for quite a reasonable price. But no, we were selling these on eBay, and we've sold, I don't know, a third of them already. But yes, only a nominal profit on that, but at least it got them used. Then talking about mixing new and old, this KVM that we offer, because KVMs, a lot of people now have, things like RISC PC and an Ionics, and then, an up-to-date machine, like something, BeagleBoard, Raspberry Pi, ARM Mini X Rapido, Raspberry Pi, all these sort of things. Now, how do you mix the two together with a KVM? Because you've got VGA and HDMI or DVI and USB and PS2 to deal with. So this KVM is quite a useful one. In that it accepts both DVI, well, it's DVI-I, which basically means, on a DVI connector, next to the SPADE connector, there can be 2 pins above, 2 pins below. That's basically analog VGA, is the red, green, and blue, and sync for analog RGB. And so using one of these, you input with the appropriate cable your sort of RISC-BC or Ionics using the DVI-I, the analog part of the DVI-I. Then you connect up your HDMI or DVI-based output computer to the DVI socket. And then into this socket, we can supply a cable that on the end of it has both DVI and VGA. So if your monitor accepts both DVI and VGA, and normally if it's set to be auto, when you switch over, it will automatically switch from one input to the other input. The keyboard and mouse, you do have to use a PS2 keyboard and mouse, but the thing is, of course, you can get, USB to PS2 adapters, so the modern computers can be connected up easy using one of these. And so they're a useful way of keeping your things going without having to have multiple monitors, multiple keyboards and mice on the desk. We do actually HDMI only KVMs for some reason are silly money. We do have, I think, a 4-port one that's only £99. Or sorry, no, was it £109? Sorry, but we've actually just gone and sold out of those. But we'll hopefully not be too long before we have some more of that. How long have I got till? 15. Right. Okay. one of the other things that we have done and has been very useful is a little extra sideline is switched USB cables. One of the first things we found was that Raspberry Pi people, because the Raspberry Pi didn't have a power on-off switch, a number of people said, oh, can I have basically a micro USB extension lead with a switch in the middle? So we were offering those. And then we realized that there were other types of USB, anything that's USB powered, this is USB A to A extension lead with a switch in it. And actually we have various private individuals to companies. We've got one company that orders 50 every couple of months from us of these, which is a useful little bit of business. So we actually, if it's a USB cable going A to B, most variants of the cable you might want, we now actually stock a switched version of it, which can be quite useful for some people. Then, yes, thinking about the Raspberry Pi. Now, the Raspberry Pi 2, of course, has now been superseded by the Raspberry Pi 3. But as some people know, that because the CPU is different in it, there are some things in RISC-OS that are, well, either don't work or flaky. So a number of people, and the thing is, the Raspberry Pi 3, the change in CPU, RISC-OS doesn't particularly benefit from it. It's not considerably quick or anything. So for a lot of people, they were saying, oh, well, the Raspberry Pi 2 is the better bet. Now, we've got a few of them left. The thing is, you can now, of course, just go to, I know, CPC or Farnell and buy Raspberry Pi 2s. And they say, oh, yes, no, and the normal price. The thing is, they've now produced a Raspberry Pi 2 version 1.2, which is basically a Raspberry Pi 3 chip, but without the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi on board. So it actually, there's no point in buying that. You might as well buy a Raspberry Pi 3. So I think it's the same price anyway, but they're selling it for those companies that want to, that had Raspberry Pi 3s sorted and properly tested, and that for their whatever use they've got for it. And as soon as you start saying, oh no, we're going to change it for one that's now got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on board, they have to have to redo all their EMC testing and whatever. So that's why they've produced it, and it satisfies some people's requirements. It doesn't satisfy any RISC-OS users' requirements. So be very careful. If you're offered Raspberry Pi 2, you need version 1.1, not version 1.2. So in actual fact, unfortunately, these are actually more expensive than Raspberry Pi 3s, because I had to resort to buying a batch of 10 of them off eBay to actually get hold of them, because the main distributors no longer sell them and haven't for some while. Right, then moving on to some things that are new. Something that, how many managed to make it to the Southwest show that are here? That's only a handful. How many made it to the London show? All right, still not all of you. So right, actually, I'll backtrack a little bit then, in that I'll also mention at the London show we launched Photodesk 3.14. The Photodesk 3.14 basically was an update to make it properly compatible with the latest systems. There were problems running Photodesk on pretty well anything after the Ionics and the early Pi, but it's now Raspberry Pi 3.4 works now fine on the ARM-X6, on the Titanium, the Rapido TI, and the iGEP V5 based system, the Rapido IG, and on the latest Pis, and it does also, at the same time, they increased basically they changed the... Sorry. Right in the pocket. Yes, I've got shallow pockets. Sorry.
It's very hip these days to drop the mic.
Yes.
Well, you can only do it so many times.
But what you've got to do at the end of your set, though. Yeah. Otherwise, just pull the whole thing.
Actually, I've got too much rubbish in there. No, that was stopping it from going in.
Oh, right.
Right. Right, Photodesk, sorry, yeah. One of the other things was that Photodesk in the past had problems loading some JPEGs. It just would not load some JPEGs, or some JPEGs it would load, and it would basically end up with a stripy JPEG. Now, by utilising a different library of JPEG loader, that now problem has gone away, and it will load in pretty well any JPEG that you can throw at it. One downside is that particular library, it is a bit slower at loading, but by being so much more versatile, and hopefully you might be doing it on your lovely new Rapido TI or Rapido IG, so you won't notice the length of time. If you're still running it on a RISC PC, if you know that all your photos used to load from your camera on the old one, it's actually just one file that can be just replaced on the system, so you could get the speed if you decide that is preferable. Then, yes, something else there, something that was launched at the Southwest show is USB tablet with pressure sensitivity, which it basically does the job in that the driver for it has been written to be compatible with the Paint Pal. Yes, the Paint Pal that, I forgot the company, but anyway, that used to be done a long time ago. And that did mean that basically by utilising that API, Photodesk just works with it straight away without any changes to Photodesk on that. And it offers pressure sensitivity and the normal sort of usage of it. So programs that don't, well, in fact, there's no other program at the moment that utilises pressure sensitivity. There used to be a special plugin for artworks, but that was the plugin was a work of art in itself. I'm trying to track down the source and authors to it and get the rights and see if we can get that done. But in the meantime, what you can do is it can be used just to replace the mouse. So if you are actually wanting to physically draw around something on your bit of paper, you can use it into, I don't know, paint or artworks or whatever. You can use it for that. That is a bit of a knack to do, I'm told, but that sort of thing. But you can do that. Then you've got other new. I think this was at the London show that we launched the PyTop Pro. It's based on the PyTop, but PyTop Pro to say PyTop RISC. And that is basically, there is the PyTop, so we have the Pi in there, and then this board controls the screen, the keyboard, etc., with its dedicated loudspeaker. This space can be used to hold a nano router. Now, the nano router basically means it receives Wi-Fi and has a special cable that plugs into the Pi's Ethernet. And as far as the Pi is concerned, it's connected to the internet. It's just as if you had it plugged into your standard network on there. And the latest version of Otter will allow you to actually set up the and change network on the nano router. Not as simply and straightforward as your standard laptop. You just go to Costa Coffee or whatever it is, and they tell you the password. It's a little bit more involved, but it can be done now on a RISC laptop. It's 13.66 by 768 screen. The keyboard is not the best in the world, but for if you're needing it on the move, it's certainly an awful lot better than a lot of the other alternatives, and it does the job. It works. Not particularly cheap, but it is effectively the first RISC laptop since the Acorn A4, which is just a few years ago, and of course that cost, if I recall correctly, £2,499 to buy. So you can buy 5 of these for the same price as one of those. Then we move on to basically the new machines. Well, they've been around a little bit now, but for a little bit of time. But this is Case A, which we use for both the Rapido IG, the iGet-based system, and the Rapido TI, the titanium-based system. Now, they both have their pros and cons, and if you're comparing also with the ARMX6, there are pros and cons. Basically, the CPU in the both Rapidos is the next generation to the CPU in the other machines, which are the same CPU as it was in the Panda board. So the CPU is for your at the same speed will often give you, I don't know, a 50% improvement about the same speed. Chris Hall has done some very good benchmarking, and you could on his website you could have a look at that. And it talks all about it, and you'll see there's some quite interesting things and some weird disparities of some machines being very quick on one thing and very slow on another. But overall, the Rapido IGS comes out slightly ahead of the Rapido TI, and they're both quite a bit ahead of the ARMX6, because one of the other things is because not only are they using the later generation CPU, but they also run at basically the clock speed 50% faster, 1500 megahertz. They all benefit, the Rapido IG benefits from the microprocessor board that we developed that allows you to control power. So you have a soft power, so you press the button, it turns on. When you do a shutdown, it turns the power off, or you can hold the power switch in and for 4 seconds and it turns it off, just like on you would expect on a standard PC. Some of the cases, this particular case does have a reset switch, but some of the cases, quite a lot of the small cases, for some weird reason, don't actually have a reset switch on them. But we offer, will normally, if it fits into a case that doesn't have that, we can provide a reset switch on the back, because all the boards do provide that. Then the other, how's time going?
2:39.
Yeah.
So I've got
another 5 or 10 minutes.
5, right, sure, thank you. Right. The other thing is there are of the new machines you can now buy today. There are pros and cons for each of them. In actual fact, the ARMX6-based systems, if you want a single large display of more than 2048 by 1440 sort of maximum, then in actual fact the ARMX6 does the job for you. If you're wanting 2 displays, then the titanium will do it for you. But if you're just doing one display up to 2048 by sort of 1440 or natively, we're demonstrating 2048 by 1152. The Rapido IG is actually now the cheapest. We're doing a special £50 off for the show offer on that, and effectively the fastest of the current models. There are other slight differences. The fact that modern systems, the order of RGB internally is sort of changed, in that in the Ionics they used to, on early boards, they used to hardwire change the output on the Super VGA connector. On then later boards they found a way of changing the registers within the graphics processor on the chip, but some of the later systems do not offer that. But programs like Photodesk, Artworks, there was an issue that colours weren't coming out right, but they have all now been sorted. So, and I think as time goes on, more and more systems RISC-OS will appear to be running on systems that rely on the colour swapping. So, and in actual fact, we have found for some reason, yes, some of the updates for the Photodesk didn't work on the ARMX6, but did work on everything else. But anyway, that problem has been fixed. And if you have bought 3.14 at for either of the shows and do have any problems, especially with the special effects option, there is a little patch that is on our website. It's a free download for 3.14 users that will fix any problems you've got there. But so the Rapido IG, it's the fastest. It's actually now the cheapest, and selling new systems like that is the only way that we are going to stay in business and be here next year and the year after to support you and to support RISC-OS. So we look forward to seeing you on the stand with your credit cards at the ready. Yeah, we do still take cheques, although I think we've taken one cheque this year so far. And I haven't got around to banking it because it's just too much hassle. Well, it was only 30 quid, but I will do something. Anyway, anyone got any questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we hope to see you at the stand.